Here we go, guys. Always movements, always news, always things happening, and I want to start with Arsenal because the Premier League champions are going to be busy in the next weeks of transfer window. It's been quiet during the World Cup for Arsenal. They tried some approaches for Bruno Guimaraes. They've been working on Morgan Rogers, but it's going to be busy in the next weeks. Today we start talking about Arsenal want to sign Morgan Rogers. The agreement with the player, from my understanding, is quite close. It's something that Arsenal see as close, not a problem, but Aston Villa start at £130 million. This could be eventually negotiated, we will see, but Aston Villa start at £130 million for Morgan Rogers. So very expensive. We have to see what's going to happen in the club-to-club conversations, but Arsenal are working on the Morgan Rogers deal as a top priority.
Arsenal close in on Morgan Rogers inside the Gunners' summer superstar chase. Arsenal's summer rebuild has been quietly ticking along in the background. Piero Hincapie's move made permanent, Ilan Meslier arriving on a free. But none of that has been the story fans actually want to talk about. The real headline this summer has a single name attached to it: Morgan Rogers. According to transfer insider Fabrizio Romano, the Aston Villa forward remains Arsenal's #1 attacking target, and personal terms between the club and player are reportedly close to being finalised. The problem, as ever with the biggest deals, isn't the player, it's the price. Romano's update: close, not a problem. Except, the fee speaking on his YouTube show, Romano laid out exactly where things stand. Arsenal are determined to sign a top-class winger this summer, and Rogers sits at the very top of that list. Romano described the situation with the player himself as something Arsenal see as close and not a concern. The sticking point is Aston Villa's valuation, which starts at a striking £130 million. That figure, Romano stressed, is a starting point rather than a final word. Clubs rarely open negotiations at the number they expect to accept, but even a compromise deal is likely to land well north of Arsenal's current transfer record of £105 million, set when they signed Declan Rice from West Ham. Other reporting lines up with Romano's framing. Multiple outlets have suggested Arsenal's opening bid is likely to be pitched closer to £100 million, with a compromise somewhere in the region of £115 to £120 million, viewed as the realistic landing zone if both sides want a deal done. Even at the lower end of that range, Rogers would become one of the most expensive English players in history, and Villa are said to be aware their leverage is considerable, given he only signed a new contract running to 2031 last November. Why Arsenal are so determined to get this deal done? It's worth pausing on why a 23-year-old who joined Villa from Middlesbrough for a relatively modest fee in 2024 has become such a priority for a club as ambitious as Arsenal. Rogers enjoyed another outstanding season in claret and blue, contributing directly to Villa's attack from a variety of positions across the front line, and has since gone to the World Cup with England, a tournament that has only heightened his profile and, inevitably, his price tag. Mikel Arteta is understood to see him primarily as a long-term solution on the left side of Arsenal's attack, rather than as a central number 10, with the versatility to also operate through the middle if needed. That left-wing project has taken on real urgency because of what's happening elsewhere in Arsenal's squad. Leandro Trossard, so often Arteta's trusted rotation option out wide, looks set to leave for Besiktas, with Arsenal having accepted an offer in the region of €20 million, a fee some Arsenal-supporting voices feel undersells him significantly. Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli have also both seen their game time restricted and are among the players the club would be willing to move on for the right price, with Arsenal reportedly seeking around £18 to £20 million for Jesus alone. Put simply, Arsenal aren't just adding a luxury piece up front, they're rebuilding the entire attacking department around one marquee arrival, and Rogers is the man they've identified to lead that reshaping. The number 8 search, Bruno Guimaraes. Waiting. In the wings, Rogers isn't the only priority. Arteta and sporting director Andrea Berta have also earmarked a new central midfielder, specifically a dynamic number 8, as essential business this summer, and the name most consistently linked is Newcastle captain Bruno Guimaraes. Reports suggest Arsenal have stepped up their pursuit of the Brazilian alongside their Rogers chase, working on what's been described as 2 deals simultaneously, with encouraging signs that Guimaraes himself is keen on a move to Emirates Stadium. Newcastle, unsurprisingly, are reluctant to sell their captain. and a fee is expected to be one of the more significant obstacles, with suggestions the deal could cost anywhere between £80 million and £90 million, depending on how negotiations unfold. This is where things start to get genuinely complicated for Arsenal's summer math. The PSR puzzle. Can Arsenal actually afford both? Arsenal have shown over the last few transfer windows that they're not afraid to spend big, but profit and sustainability rules, PSR, mean lavish spending has to be balanced with outgoings, and the scale of ambition here, potentially £130 million-ish for Rodgers, plus another £80 to £90 million for Guimaraes, pushes towards the £200 million plus mark in gross spending. That kind of outlay doesn't happen without meaningful departures. Trossard and Jesus moving on will help, but may not be enough on their own. There's growing suggestion that Arsenal may need to sanction a more significant sale, something beyond squad rotation pieces, if they want to get both of their top two targets over the line in the same window. Ben White's future is also reportedly uncertain, with several clubs monitoring his situation, though his recovery from a medial ligament injury and Jurrien Timber's fitness, Timber withdrew from the Netherlands World Cup squad with a groin issue, could influence how that plays out. Christian Norgaard's place in the squad has also been questioned amid the incoming midfield reinforcements. In short, signing both Rodgers and Guimaraes in full is not simply a case of writing checks. It may force Arsenal into difficult decisions about who else has to leave Emirates Stadium this summer to make the books balance. The alternatives. What happens if Villa won't budge? Arsenal aren't putting all their eggs in one basket. Reports indicate the club retains interest in Club Brugge's Christos Tzolis, valued at around £34 million, a figure that would represent a Belgian Pro League record, though Brugge are said to be reluctant sellers given Tzolis only signed a new contract through 2029 last summer. Paris Saint-Germain's Bradley Barcola has also been mentioned as a contingency option, with his contract talks in Paris reportedly stalling, potentially opening the door for PSG to consider offers. There have even been whispers connecting Arsenal to Atletico Madrid's Julian Alvarez in various forms, though that link appears far more speculative than concrete at this stage. None of these alternatives generate anywhere near the same excitement among supporters as Rodgers, and that's precisely why Arsenal appear willing to go the extra mile and pay a British transfer record to get their primary target rather than settle for a cheaper alternative. What fans should actually expect next. So where does this actually go from here? A few things seem clear based on the current picture. Personal terms are close to sorted. Rodgers appears genuinely open to the move, with suggestions of a 5-year contract already in principle agreement, according to some reports, though Arsenal will want everything formally signed off before popping any champagne. The real negotiation is club to club. As of the most recent reporting, there had been no direct contact between Arsenal and Aston Villa at club level, meaning the headline £130 million figure is still very much an opening gambit rather than a fixed price. Expect a prolonged back and forth once Arsenal's opening bid, likely to start closer to the £100 million mark, is formally tabled. Timing matters. Rodgers is currently away with England at the World Cup, and as with the Trossard-Besiktas situation, meaningful progress on a deal of this size is more likely once the tournament concludes, and all parties can focus fully on transfer business. Villa hold real leverage. With Rodgers tied down until 2031 and no obligation to sell, Aston Villa are in a strong negotiating position. Unless Arsenal are willing to smash their own transfer record comfortably, this could be a saga that drags well into the closing weeks of the window. A domino effect is likely. Whatever happens with Rodgers will shape whether Arsenal can also complete a deal for Guimaraes, and that, in turn, could determine which fringe players are shown the door at the Emirates before the window shuts. The bigger picture. For Arteta's project, zoom out, and this Rodgers pursuit says a lot about where Arsenal believe they are as a club. This isn't a side dabbling in the market or making up the numbers. It's a team that has finished as genuine title and Champions League contenders in recent seasons, and clearly believes one or two elite additions could be the difference between falling agonizingly short and actually getting over the line. Paying a fee that would make Rodgers the most expensive English player in Premier League history is a statement of intent as much as a football decision. It says Arsenal see him not as a squad rotation option, but as a genuine difference maker, capable of unlocking their attack in a way Trossard, Martinelli and others haven't consistently managed in the biggest moments. whether Villa can be talked down from £130 million, whether Guimaraes can be squeezed into the same window, and whether enough outgoings can be found to satisfy PSR, those are the questions that will define Arsenal's summer. But on the fundamental question of who they want, there's no ambiguity left. Morgan Rogers is the man Mikel Arteta wants, leading his attack next season, and Arsenal appear prepared to break the bank to make it happen. For now, fans wait on two fronts: how England's World Cup campaign shapes up for their potential new signing, and whether Arsenal and Aston Villa